Hello, my name is Francis Ventura, and this is a short video demonstration for the Clinician Portal of the fourth iteration of the Food Frequency Questionnaire. So let's start the presentation by running the application, and the package submitted by the team already has very detailed information on how to run the application, but we're gonna do it again just to show how the application works. We'll start by running the Spring services, which are the user service, the questionnaire service, and the food item service. And then we'll run the authentication service, which is the Node.js service, and the actual AngularJS application, which is the questionnaire web. So let's start. We'll go into the directory. We type maven spring good run. We copy this command very quickly. Here we see they're loading. Alright, now let's start running the npm the node applications. So let's go to the service, type npm start. Let's go to the web app. Let's actually wait for the other ones to finish running, and there we go. Once they're running, safe to run the web, and there it is. The web app takes a little bit longer to load. It takes roughly a minute. It is also worth noting that in order for the application to work locally, you have to have I recommend you should have a local instance of the database. Here's a MongoDB. We have it hosted in Atlas. It's providing documentation again, and it has these following collections. But in order to not be dependent on the internet connection in the request, I recommend having a local instance of the database in your local computer. So it's finished loading. Here we'll go to Google or your preferred browser. We'll type localhost port 4200. The typo. Localhost 4200. And the application takes us to the login page of the program. This video is to explain the Clinician Portal, so provide clinician credentials. In this case, let's type clinician 2. And that's the Clinician Portal of the application. The application has 3 roles: the admin, clinician, and parent. And here we see that the Clinician Portal takes us to a home tab. The home tab displays the hospital to which the clinician belongs. The admin determines the clinicians and to which hospitals that belong, and it also gets a right for clinician to assign parents. But if a clinician has access to the application, then you'll only be able to see the hospital he belongs to, the clinicians in that hospital, and the parents in the hospital. So this first tab displays clinician and parent information, which can be changed by clicking in these links. It has username for each of the clinicians, their role, their name, number of patients assigned to them, and here we have the parents, username, again name, number of children, and assigned clinician. So if we wanted to change any information for the parent, we can go over here and it's changeable. If we want to change the clinician, We go to this drop-down list. Notice that it displays a list of all the clinicians for the hospital. Let's see here, click update, and it changed to Dr. Giraldo Gabriel. So let's go back and change it. Update user. Here we go to the questionnaire results. There's only one questionnaire submitted. If there was no questionnaire submitted, it will display a message indicating that no questionnaire has been submitted. But you will see that there's one submitted by Melissa James, a unique questionnaire ID. We have the patient name. This is a feature that is pending, or this is a feature that it still needs to be implemented. Give an age. This is provided by the questionnaire. Parent access, other feature that needs to be implemented, and here we have nutrient recommendations and food recommendations. If we were to click in this nutrient logo, this nutrient icon, it displays a list of all the nutrients, and it, based on the information provided by the parent, it calculates nutrient consumed by the child, and depending on recommended value hosted in the database, it calculates how much are the parents either overfeeding or feeding less, and it displays a message either above, below, or normal. Here we have the same thing, but for the food recommendations, instead of being nutrients, it's for each individual food item or group of items, and here it provides ranges. The label, it says if it's a little below or below, adequate, above, or yeah. And it also have the calculated amount based on the input provided by the parent. To show that this functionality is implemented properly and that it's dependent on the parent, we'll log out and we'll go to Melissa James' parent account, and here she also made another questionnaire. This time we'll say infant age is 5 months. We'll just input generic data 5 day 5. Again, this is just arbitrarily choosing numbers to populate it. We'll skip the additional foods and submit the questionnaire. Now we'll log out, go back to the Clinician Portal, and here we see the second result by Melissa James. We see the results. This provides the information more in detail. It provides for each of individual nutrients, and we also have this feature which allows you to provide feedback. If the clinician sees something in the questionnaire and wants to tell the parent some information, some recommendation, then he can just click this. It will display a text box which he can provide information in, and you can say you are eating too much milk. So let's see if this is placing the parent. And this is what the parent sees, the recommendations provided by the clinician. So we covered the Home tab, the Question Results tab. Here's the Recommendations tab. As of now, this tab only provides the same information provided in this tab. It provides it more concisely. It does have the same functionality for the nutrients and for the food items, but it is up for the next group working on this program to talk to the product owner what change in the implementation of this tab should be carried out. Okay, and the last tab that is to cover is the tracking history. The tracking history depends on again information provided by the parent. So here we see Melissa James submitted a tracking history, a tracking performed a tracking operation in the parent, and here we see that for each of the nutrients, for each of the food types, it ranked above the recommended values. So let's show an example of how it works. We go to tracking. It is worth noting that here we have the questionnaire and the tracking. The tracking is more subjective than the questionnaire. It is to be performed more often than the questionnaire. Like here it says once a week. The questionnaire is supposed to be submitted based on clinician recommendations or clinician requirements, or maybe once a month, but this is supposed to be more subjective, and it is depending on what the parent thinks. You see, if it's like, oh, I'm overfeeding my child, or I'm feeding him less, and it is more subjective, but it is a loose way for the parent determining how she feeding child. So let's input some information to provide an example, let's say below for all of them. Now let's go to the Clinician Portal. And we see the information submitted by the parent. We see that the date the parent submitted the tracking report, and it says that it's below the time. This is more loose than the questionnaire. So with this we conclude the presentation of the Clinician Portal. Those are all the features and all the tabs.